Hi, I'm Rachel from Maison de Pax, and today I'm going to show you how to paint a room with planking or wood paneling. Planking and paneling is easy to paint, but it's time-consuming to do correctly. Fortunately, you don't need any power tools or DIY experience for this project, just a lot of patience. It's the perfect beginner project and a great way to improve your home value with a little time and elbow grease. Whether your planks or paneling are real wood or a 1970s special, there are 3 mistakes people often make when painting paneling. First, not prepping the walls properly, which can produce problems with the paint chipping or flaking off. Second, not priming properly, which can lead to bleed through. Third, not getting the right amount of paint into the cracks between the planks. Too little causes an uneven finish, while too much causes drips. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you from start to finish on how to paint wood paneling or planking the right way so that it will last. Let's get started. As with any paint job, remove hardware from the walls, including electrical covers, and move your furniture to obtain clear access. Next, you need to prep your paneling. The shinier the paneling is, the harder it will be for the paint to adhere. The paneling I recently painted was completely matte, so I just gave it a good scrubbing with an all-purpose cleaner and an old washcloth. If your paneling is sealed with something glossy though, you should consider 2 options. My first choice would be to use a liquid deglosser. You simply wipe it on with a clean rag and let the chemicals do the work. As with any chemical stripper though, you need to make sure that you're taking proper precautions. The final option is, of course, to give the entire wall a light sanding to remove the glossy sheen so that the primer and paint can adhere. Remember, you don't need to remove the finish completely, just remove the glossy coating so the paint can stick. This is a messy option though, and if your paneling is not real wood, you need to be careful that you don't sand through the wood look layer. If you do try the deglosser or sanding, you'll want to make sure the walls are cleaned well before moving on to the next step. Step 2 is to protect your trim and floors. Start by taping off your baseboards and other trim. I actually normally just freehand the cut-in, but with paneling, you have to kind of jab your paintbrush down into the cracks near the baseboards and ceiling, so you will want to tape this off with high-quality painter's tape. I also taped around my door and window for the same reason. Then be sure to lay down drop cloths to protect your floors. Once the walls are deglossed and clear of all the oils and dust and taped off, you can begin priming. I prefer a water-based primer for something this large because it allows for easy cleanup. Here is where it can get tricky. The width of your paneling and the depth of the grooves will determine the best way to apply your primer and paint. These walls were about 2.5-inch pine boards, so a 2.5 to 3-inch angle brush proved to be the easiest way to apply the primer. I began by painting vertically in each crack and then smoothing out along the face of each board. Is this time-consuming? Yes, but a roller wouldn't get into the deep grooves between the planks. You may have luck with a roller if your grooves are more shallow, though I would not suggest using a super thick roller, which are made for textured walls. Although it would get into the grooves better, it's likely to get too much paint on the smooth portions of your paneling, and then it will create drips. Or, if your planks are much wider, it might make sense to paint vertically along the grooves with a brush and then to roll the walls to cover the smooth portions. With these narrow planks though, it made more sense to simply use a brush to paint the entire thing. It's painfully slow, but a brush that goes easily into the cracks of your paneling or planks is likely your best choice. You also need to be sure that you use an angled brush to get paint down into the cracks of the panels or planks, especially near the baseboards and trim. Now is the perfect time to fill holes in the walls. You could have started by filling the holes, but I like to do this at this point because the holes are easier to spot once the walls have been primed. Using wood filler or spackle, just fill the holes and cracks and wipe smooth with a damp rag. If you have larger holes to fill, allow the substance to dry, then lightly sand over the spot to smooth it. Once the filler has dried, according to the package instructions, prime again. That's right, prime again. You heard me. I recommend using 2 layers of primer, especially if you're trying to paint your walls white. This is because paneling is hard to prime evenly, especially with a brush, and real wood planks can also bleed through pretty badly. A second coat of primer can also save you money because it will require less paint in the end, and usually paint is more expensive than primer. Once a second coat of primer is dried, again, be sure to refer to your instructions for drying on the back of your can. You can begin painting. Again, you will want an angled brush that easily covers the planks and goes into the cracks between them. Work in sections, painting the cracks, smoothing over the flat portions of the planks, and then moving on. As with the primer, be sure to paint down into the cracks where the panels meet the trim work. For this project, I was able to get full coverage with just one coat of paint. I think that was likely due to the 2 coats of primer I had used. And that's it. You can remove the protective coverings, reattach all the electrical covers, and enjoy your space. Let's review the steps quickly, though, for reference. First, remove hardware and electrical covers. Second, degloss if needed and clean your walls. Third, tape along the baseboards and other trim. Fourth, protect with drop cloths. Fifth, prime, being sure to paint vertically along the cracks and get into the cracks where it meets the trim. 6, prime again. 7, paint, using the same techniques to get paint into the cracks between the planks. 8, put on a second coat of paint if needed. 9, put your room back together and enjoy. I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. For more DIY projects, decorating ideas, and design inspiration, subscribe or visit maisondepax.com.